The Troy Trojans trying to get over missing the 2024 NCAA tournament, looking to get back in 2025. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. We continue with our 2025 Sunbelt baseball preview. Head coach of the Troy Trojans, Skyler Meade, hops on. Trojans just missing the NCAA tournament last year, had a good argument to make it, but it was JMU, Coastal Carolina, and I guess officially the Cajuns getting the at-large berth. Southern Miss getting the automatic berth as tournament champions. We also talk in this first segment about kids taking not only advantage of the portal and the NIL, but the educational opportunities by staying in college a long time and maybe getting more than just an undergraduate degree. We also talk about what to accomplish in spring ball to get ready, or actually fall ball to get ready for the spring. And of course, what they're looking to improve on in 2025 as the conversation goes along. He is Skyler Meade. He is the head coach of the Troy Trojans, and he is Locked On Sunbelt. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. We're continuing to preview the 2025 Sunbelt baseball season. We bring in the head coach of the Troy Trojans. He is Skyler Meade. Coach, thanks for hopping on the podcast. All right, let's get right into it. How do you guys get over not making the NCAAs? Sunbelt had 4 teams into the tournament. Coastal may have gotten a sympathetic bid last year. Troy had a great season last year, but come up just short, not getting that at-large berth. Why do you think you guys did not make it, and how do you improve for this season?
Well, I think in the end, you got to do more. It's really hard. There's a minimal amount of bids that are there. Look, we lived in 23. We made it a no-brainer to put us in, and we left enough doubt. You don't want to leave doubt in a committee's hands, and that's just the way that the cards unfolded for us. In the end, if you keep winning and you're the last team standing in the Sunbelt tournament, or in any tournament for that matter, you take it out of their hands. So we just have to be better, but I know that we will be.
So one thing I like about the Sunbelt baseball is that it does not come down to one weekend like basketball, right? If somebody, and this happened to the Cajuns a few years ago, someone sprains their ankle the last regular season game, it ruins the next weekend, and your whole season is ruined. Whereas obviously, last year, the Cajuns won the regular season, didn't win the conference tournament. They still go, right? Southern Miss wins the tournament. They go. JMU went and Coastal goes. So you guys can get at-large berths. I know you guys didn't go last year, but how much – relaxing is not the right word, but it doesn't come down to that one weekend. How much does that give you when you don't have to win that weekend to go? I know you said we didn't get it done that weekend, so we left it open to chance, but yet there is that opportunity each and every weekend to show that you do belong. And the Sunbelt is, I think the premier group of 5 conference in America.
Well, it most certainly is. I mean, there's a reason it's 4th or 5th rated league, depending, which metric you follow. But the privilege for our program, we tell our players all the time, every game you play matters. So every game, we don't say it in this context, it is a resume builder, but it is. Like, just keep, stacking your days and come prepared to win every day. Obviously, it's baseball. It's nearly impossible and probably impossible to win every single game, but come there with the right mindset, come with the right approach. And if you maximize your wins and you schedule a tough schedule as we do in a lot of the Sun Belt, then we're going to continue to have 4+ bids every single year in the NCAA tournament. And, I think there's a lot of teams in this league, not just ourselves, that are capable of making real runs if we continue to play well and are given those opportunities in the NCAA tournament.
Talking to Skyler Meade, head coach of the Troy Trojans, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, so what's the biggest difference between the Power 5 and the Group of 5? You were at South Carolina pitching coach. Now you're with Troy. So last year I went to cover the Cajuns in the College Station Regional, and I can't tell you, Coach, how disappointed I was and how nice everybody was at College Station. I think A&M is overrated and everything, and it was really disappointing in how nice everybody was there. And that's even with Texas and Texas A&M in the same region. But just the meetings on the mound, everybody was so much bigger than the Cajuns pitchers, right? I mean, Cajuns had a little size, but everybody between Texas and A&M were just, 6'4", 225. What is the biggest difference that you've seen between the Sun Belt and, in this case, the SEC, but P5 and Group of 5?
Yeah, I will tell you one thing. This doesn't mean we'll win a singular game, but that will not be the case. Our team looks like an SEC team. Our guys are absolutely massive, and when they walk off the bus, you'll say holy something because they look the part. But look, obviously finances are what they are, and the differences. And we're supported so well here at Troy, as is a lot of the Sun Belt. I mean, baseball is very important in this league. It provides a lot of exposure on a national level. In a variety of ways for a variety of programs. But I think that, what we try to talk about a lot, I think the difference that you see sometimes, and then maybe we'll use the SEC for that matter. I think that just the overall athleticism and potential nature is so high for so many guys. It doesn't mean it works out for every guy. Obviously, there's a lot of guys that end up in the portal, that go different places and they end up having success. I think that, you could argue, you look at an SEC roster, you take the first 35 guys, every one of those guys has some sort of elite skill set. And you could argue if the cards were dealt right, they could be really good draft picks and they could play professionally and they would have an opportunity to potentially be big leaguers. I think sometimes the number of people potentially outside of leagues such as that is a little bit less. So our challenge in the recruiting process has been, we want every single guy on our roster to think that they're going to play this game until they're 40 years old. Now, is that the reality? Absolutely not. But they need to have that mindset. If you have that mindset, then the motivation's high. And if the motivation's high, then you're going to get the best product you can, in the preparation and then in turn on the field.
I'm going to turn it around. What about taking advantage of the process? Because, and this, there are some guys that are good enough to play college ball, maybe even some guys that are good enough to play pro ball, but maybe not quite good enough to play major league ball. And the way the process is now, you can spend a lot of time in college and take advantage of the process. You could literally certainly end up with an MBA or maybe even graduate law school, although the law school issue may be tough. But you could stay in college long enough to graduate law school and have some bucks in the bank, not owe anything, and start your life. Like, there's a possibility that kids are going to figure that out. I could be in school for 7-8 years, play baseball, have fun, have a great college life, and have a couple of degrees, and I have a house when I'm done, compared to the rest of us who graduated college, either in debt and not making any money and, scrapping to begin with, whereas these guys, not necessarily playing bro ball or getting that 7-figure check, but, all of a sudden having a solid career and having some money in the bank when they're done.
Well, there's no doubt. The length in which people spend in college has certainly been extended, especially over the last 5 years post-COVID. But look, I've been in college 23 years, 5 as a player, 18 as a coach. Obviously, a different realm the last 18. But, I mean, I get it. There's a lot of things at their disposal. And whether or not people like the portal or the NIL world that has opened up, that's a whole nother rabbit hole and debate. But what I will say is, it's not the day and age of the player, the athlete, if you will, going hungry. They have a lot more avenues to improve their finances. But I think at the same time within that, you also learn who really loves the game. I didn't know what angle you were going with that question, but I think it goes one of two ways. Some guys get in it and they get caught in the wrong stuff, right? And you realize they have the wrong motivations. Look, nobody wants to go home, go poor, right? But at the same time, if you're playing our sport of baseball or your basketball, football, volleyball, maybe volleyball is a little different with how their pro stuff works, but we want the guys that are playing so that they can be the best version of themselves and max out their career. And they're not maybe caught up with, hey, how much money am I making? What is this? What is that? Like, I think that's something that you hope people don't take advantage of the situation in that way, which I think would be negative, but they take advantage of it. What happens academically, potentially getting multiple degrees, potentially, starting yourself in a good spot financially, and then just the flat out exposure that it gets. these guys are all entities now. They're now known. People know Brooks Bryan on our team across the country. They know Gary Gaines. They know Peyton Watts. They know so many of our guys because of the access these players have now on a broad scale to all 50 states and whatnot. And so my challenge to any of those players is still remember the main thing's the main thing. For you, you're a ball player. Yeah, it's important that your finances are right. But in the end, I'd much rather max my career and make $3,000 on top, to do whatever I want in a year than my career suck and I just flatline. But I have $20,000. That money is not going to go anywhere long term. Maximize your career, make a good decision, end up at a program that you're going to have a great experience, that's going to love you, and have the best time possible, because it gets no better than your experience that you have in college.
Yeah, no, I was trying to take advantage of the educational opportunities more so than, maximizing the bank account, because I think the bank account can be there. I'm not talking about having necessarily 7 figures, but if you stay, obviously if you're staying that long, maybe you can make a couple of bucks, and you make $10,000-$20,000 every year. All of a sudden, that is 150 grand put away in the bank. And all of a sudden you have a down payment for a condo or something along those lines, which neither one of us had when we graduated college at 22 years of age, right? So
no doubt.
Let's take a time out. We'll continue our conversation with the head coach of the Troy Trojans, Skyler Meade, asking him what is his goals for fall ball as they try to get ready for the regular season come winter and the spring. And he actually says, we'll try to rotate some guys in positions there may not be their primary position. See if we can find a spot for them where we may need to fill in some depth. We will do that right after I tell you about Wayfair. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving you a home a little TLC. I always find that decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into a routine. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just wanting to give your space a new look to start the year, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. I found some furniture from their huge selection, and it made it easy to find pieces to fit my style and budget. As I've said, what direction is it? It's over there. That shelving, I bought that back when I lived in Lafayette, and the desk that you can't see, but the desk that I'm working on all came from Wayfair. My favorite part of the whole system, the free and hassle-free delivery, even for the larger items. Wayfair's site was so easy to navigate, and I found everything I needed in no time. There's something for every style and every home, no matter your space or budget. Give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. Continuing our conversation with the head coach of the Troy Trojans, Skyler Meade, what his goals are in fall ball as they get ready for the regular season come the winter and then into the spring. He's Skyler Meade. He is the head coach of the Troy Trojans. We are Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. I want to talk to you about fall ball and explain to me the biggest differences between that and like spring ball with football, because for us, for me, spring ball basically is installing the offense. And I feel like that's more for the players. And I guess it really determines if the quarterback is back, right? We're going to find out what the new quarterback has. And maybe for the coaches, filling in the holes, what do you guys try to accomplish in fall ball? That kind of feels like fall ball in baseball is more for the coaches trying to figure out, and I guess it also matters if who's back. If the Friday and Saturday night starters are back, that we have that answers already. So what is fall ball? What are you guys trying to accomplish in fall ball, getting ready for the season come spring?
Number one, we gotta make sure that our weight room, our physicality is great. That tone has to be set. We gotta implement our systematic ideals to our guys, whether it be offensively, pitching, culturally, learn about our identity. We have to become cohesive as a team. I don't expect our team, especially the way we recruit, we have half the country, we have 25 states. our team's not going to be tight knit. They all don't know each other. They come from so many different spots. So we have to do team building, and that has to grow. I don't think our team's going to be tight in September. They might think they are, but we have the opportunity to grow a lot because of where our team comes from and all their different, experiences that they've had. But we also, we want to learn things. We want to try things, try different positions, heck, we've had multiple guys over the years that weren't pitchers that we said, hey, come down to the bullpen. Let me work with you and see, you got a great arm. You compete well. Maybe you're not in the mix offensively. Like, I think the fall is for, trial and error a little bit. Certainly if you got a Friday, Saturday starter that threw 110 innings during the year and you want to protect them, I think that's certainly something to do, and put them on a proper plan so that, you mentioned obviously spring ball per football, same thing with the fall. Like, it matters, but if a guy's sore, I don't need him to go out there October 2nd. We don't play till February 14th.
Right.
Whereas you may need to learn how to handle soreness on February 2nd in a practice when you play in 12 days, depending upon what that soreness is. But, the lineup doesn't make itself in the fall. It gives you some potential answers. I think the spring certainly is the final, validating points as to what you start out with and who has certain roles. But for us, if we can leave a fall strong, confident, a growing team bond and obviously an elite culture that we have, and we think that we have some answers to the test, pitching, defensively, and offensively, to me, that's the success of a fall as you embark on that future year when you turn the calendar in January.
So when do you try to have that? That's kind of like asking you when you're going to have the starting quarterback. When do you like to have that identity? I'm sure it's not the same thing every year. It probably is not right after the new year when you guys start practicing. Is that, is there a road trip where we're coming together? When do you like to have that? Maybe it's after a big win. All of a sudden you guys realize that we were down 3 and, we were losing, 5-2, 2 outs. And all of a sudden we pulled out a win that we shouldn't have had. When do you think it happens? Does it happen organically? Does it happen after a road trip? When do you think something like that comes together?
Man, that's a great question, Dave. I mean, look, I love that this is like the angle that I really love. So each year we have our core beliefs and things that we talk about all the time that are on our locker room walls, they're on our practice schedule. We speak of every single day. And I won't go into that. Those are our dailies. But each year we come up with a team credo that essentially we believe is a massive part of the identity that we will have moving forward. Now, each year we've presented that to our team somewhere in the same time, right? Our first year, it was the last week before the season. The next year, it was actually the first day back from January. So it was a month before the year. This year we presented it about 5 days ago to them. We wear wristbands that signify what ours is and what we will go about. And, for example, this year, our team, we talk about owning every moment. So OEM is our big deal. And part of that is just to, keep the process. But at the same time, I think with our culture and the way that there's going to be a lot of guys that step up and have different moments because of the level of talent and skill set that we have, we want them to embrace that part. Certainly, I think road trips are when you bond the closest. A big comeback in a moment where you felt like defeat was at your fingertips, right? Those are things that I think accentuate it most certainly. But at the same time, I feel as if we don't have our identity going into the year, then we're going to be blind. I'll give an example to you in 2023, and I don't say this to be like.
No, right. I appreciate that. Because you usually don't get this.
But in 2023, for example, like we had gotten our first recruiting class and people had no idea, like, hey man, like they brought in a lot of new guys from all over, like what's up? And we saw our team in the fall. And I mean, we got guys throwing the ball 99 miles an hour. We got stuff. We got strong dudes. We got guys hitting bombs. And we had talked. We said, look, based on where we are at, what the numbers say through the fall, you would be second in the country in strikeouts. I don't think we'll be second, but we can be a top 10, top 15 team in strikeouts. And then offensively, we know we were low in home runs last year. We're not trying to hit home runs, but our strength numbers are crazy. You guys are physical. There's people who are going to jump on the scene. We're going to hit more home runs. And we looked at it. Look, I mean, we talked about the SEC. SEC teams usually are top 20 in the country in homers and strikeouts. Like that's just, and that means you're explosive. It means you have an identity. And that was part of our goal and our identity. And we told guys, look, the statistics will take care of themselves, but you are capable of doing this. And if you continue to work in the weight room, you continue to have that bravado when you walk into any park, right? Any park, that we are big, we are bad, we are strong, we're going to stuff you, then we'll do that. We ended up finishing 8th in the country in strikeouts, and we ended up finishing, I think it was 18th in home runs. And hence we were an NCAA tournament team that essentially was a player or so away from maybe being in a super regional. So I think that you have to know what that is. Like I said, it's going to morph. There's going to be different people that step up and own their moment as we go. But when Troy baseball walks in a park, people need to go, oh my gosh, that looks like a football team. They're confident, they got bravado, but yet when when Ted kids walk by, they're going to go shake their hands, sign the balls, dap them up. Like that's what we're about. You know what I mean? We want to walk in somewhere and, have that thing where you might not like us because we're going to come there and try to attack you. But when we leave, you're going to go, gosh, they really handled themselves like professionals and they kept everything about themselves. We always talk about when we celebrate, we always look towards our dugout. We never look at the other, right? I've been here 3 years. We've won 109 games. And if someone does it this year, now they're going to get ripped. You can quote me on that. But when we celebrate, it's always about us. We're always turning to our brothers. And if we keep that, then I think we'll maximize where our team's supposed to go.
Let's take one more time out. We'll come back, wrap up our conversation with the head coach of the Troy Trojans, Skyler Meade. What do the coaches actually talk about following the ball game? Some take a little bit longer than others. Coach Meade says he times himself. And what are they looking to improve on for 2025? We will do that right after this. All right, it appears we have about half the coaches lined up for interviews. We will try to get those in over the next couple of weeks. Again, if we get all of them, it's going to be into, really into week 3. Well, the first, I guess the third week of the season, something along those lines. Anyways, it's going to take a little bit of time if we get everybody to do it. That's okay. It's nice meeting the new guys that I have not officially met before. And remember, some of these teams are brand new into the Sun Belt. Old Dominion hasn't been in the Sun Belt for a little bit of time. So it is nice to meet these guys. And again, we got about half the coaches lined up. We will see if more come in when they see, again, these guys that are already doing it. And we had Mark Calvey out on Tuesday, and we have Skyler Meade out on Wednesday, and we'll have probably another one out on Thursday and Friday. Somewhere in there we have to do some basketball in there or not. We'll see. But again, we'll continue to do as many as we can as they keep on coming. But we have that big basketball game coming up on Saturday, right? We got a big one coming up on Saturday and then next week as well. So again, appreciate it. We got almost 1,865 subscribers. Really do appreciate all your support. Keep it coming. Please leave comments. I will respond. That is me responding, although it does say Locked On Sunbelt. That's how it works. Please leave the comments and I will get back to you. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Let's wrap up our conversation with the head coach of the Troy Trojans, Skyler Meade. What do the coaches tell the teams right after the ball games? They all get in that little huddle directly after the games. And then what are the Trojans looking to improve on in 2025? Talking to Skyler Meade, head coach of the Troy Trojans, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, a couple of questions. So we big picture was fall ball, small pictures. What do you guys say after a game? There's always this little, never understood it, right? And sometimes, you guys win 10-1 and it's like a 20-minute conversation. Like what? I mean, it was 10-1. Either you win 10-1, you lose 10-1. How long can the conversation be, right? I mean, or 5-1. Right? I mean, it was a nothing baseball game, right? I can see if you had an 8-1 lead and you lose 9-8, I can see that conversation being longer. What do you guys say after the games?
And if this changes this year, you can call me out, Dave. But I always have my watch. I keep it under 3 minutes, regardless.
I love that.
So for us, we do a couple things. We do have a little thing that we do when we win. We have we're the Trojans, so we have an authentic Troy shield that The player of the game gets to put a power T. It signifies winning, and they sign it. And the guys, love that, and they look forward to maybe being that guy to either hit the shield or to have been the one previously to hold the shield, is the way we do it. But at the same time, we try to just make sure they understand what went into the win. We try to always identify small moments or small things that may go by. Everybody can go, oh, Shane Lewis hit a 500-foot homer. Like, that's not hard to identify. We try to say, hey, we brought in a couple of years ago, we brought in a kid off the bench, Parker Sessions, and he made a great catch. And it was like a second out in a game that we were up by like 9 runs. Well, next thing you know, our pitcher on the mound kind of loses it and the game gets a little dicey. We end up winning by 4, but we go, what if Parker didn't make that catch? He had been sitting on the bench for 8 innings. It's 48 degrees here in Montgomery, the game we were playing. But he came in, he was ready for it. He made the catch. It allowed us to win, So we try to identify those kind of things. And obviously in loss too, there's certain tones, sometimes you want to challenge, the group or maybe some individuals. But in that same token, like we always say, that's a moment for us to just learn and be connected both in victory and loss. But when that conversation ends, we should walk in there, have a couple minutes to decompress, and we walk out confident and we start preparing ourselves for what's on the agenda the next day. So I don't like the long drawn out things. It's not story time for us. I think there's a different time and place for that. In the end, I just called 150 pitches and coached and prepared all day. I want to get out of there regardless too. And so I know that 18 to 24-year-old kids are probably in the same boat. No disrespect to others that do it longer, but we keep ours under 3 minutes each and every time that we meet after each game we play.
I hear this from coaches that we always hear, if we do us, we'll be okay. Well, that's nice in theory, but the other team thinks the same way. And so that's kind of tough. If they do their okay, if they do their thing, they'll be okay, right? I mean, it's not golf. Whereas if I play my game, the course is not changing, right? And so that can't be perfect. When someone is trying to stop you from hitting or attack your pitching, right, that's the competition, right? So sometimes the pitcher's going to win and sometimes the hitting is going to win. That's baseball. And sometimes, that's why they call it baseball, right? You can make a really good pitch and it's a bloop, or you line out to somebody, right? You atom ball, right? You get lucky a couple of times. And so how do you guys approach, fortunate wins and unfortunate losses? Because I'm sure you've had plenty of those over your career.
There's no doubt. And I know, I think a lot of times if you have really, really good talent, which there's a lot of programs that do, of course, in this country, whether it be on the mound and the field, and obviously you want to have a collection of both. But, for us, we always try to talk about if we can max our controllables, we can never forget outs. We can't mess up our pre-pitch movement. We can never give away at bats. We can never forget to breathe before a pitch on the mound. We can never forget to set our hands the same way and tip a pitch. We don't have massive conviction to a pitch. In our system, we're allowed to shake. So if you're not convicted, shake to a pitch you're convicted to. Right. The wrong pitch with conviction is better than the right pitch with no conviction. Right. So we talk about that. And although it does go down the same rabbit hole of do you be good at your thing or whatever, I think with as hard as baseball is, and you kind of alluded to it, it's like you can throw the same pitch 19 times and you win. And everyone celebrates you. And, if I do it, hey, great job, Skyler. You're awesome, man. Great job. High five. Well, then I do it the 20th and the wind kind of kicks up. And next thing you know, the ball goes out of the park. And now you're the reason that we lost. It's like, well, I did the same thing. My process was the same. You have to have almost that healthy ignorance to the fact that you can't lose, even though you inevitably are going to lose, right? So we try to make sure our guys do that. But if they don't, we always try to make sure we identify it in our film and our post meetings, maybe not the meeting after the game, but in our post the next time, where it's like, look, this is what happened. This is not subjective. Here's the video. We didn't do this, or you didn't handle this moment. Here's how we're going to address it. Here's how we're going to fix it so it never happens again. Because if we do this, we feel like our preparation is going to be better, our skills are going to be better, our bravado coming in is going to be better, and we're going to maximize our wins. And so, look, yeah, you need to have, like us, we need to have our left-handed arms be good against lefties, right? We need all of our bats to take their at-bats properly. Do we need to execute? We got some guys that can execute small game. Yeah, of course, like all that spills in, but we just try to make sure our biggest, rallying, message is just control the controllables at the highest level. And if you do that, then you'll apex what you're supposed to do.
All right, let's wrap it up here with Skyler Meade, head coach of the Troy Trojans. Locked on Sunbelt, your teams every day, previewing the 2025 season. All right, what do you got to improve on for the season, and who are you replacing? Who are the big guns you got to fill in for here in 2025?
Well, we certainly lost some superstars offensively. Kole Myers, one of the greatest players ever play here at Troy, was our identity last couple of years. Ethan Kavanagh, top 3 in the country and bat the ball. Will Butcher had a bunch of RBIs, 17 homers. Just was a great player. Trey Cobb, who, was so good for 2 years at shortstop, finished runner-up for Gold Glove at shortstop last year to Griff O'Farrell at Virginia. Kyle Mock, Aiden Gilroy. I mean, I could keep going down the list. Cleat Hartsogs in pro ball pitched for us last year. Noah Manning was, a preseason All-American and was all Sun Belt arm as a closer. So there's a lot of guys, but that's the nature of good players. You won games, so therefore you had players who were successful. That's okay. It's time for the new guy. It's time for the Troy fan to have a new player they fall in love with. And so while we're going to miss those guys and you get that feeling of comfortability, you sit there in May and June when you play, you go, I'm a big fan of him. I know what he's about to do. He has a 520 on base. Yeah, it's easy to sit back as a coach because you've seen Kole Myers do it for, 125 games, but we'll have new guys that step into that. And I think they'll step in well. And I think what we have is such a solid depth pool on both sides of the ball. And so while we think we might have the answers here on February 10th as to what all that looks like and what the pecking order is, the players are going to tell us the answers by what they do starting here in a couple days.
He's Skyler Meade, head coach of the Troy Trojans. Really appreciate your time, Coach. Thanks for hopping on Locked On Sunbelt. Best of luck this season. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on. Hope to do it again. And let's go Trojans in 25.
I'm going to keep that in mind, and I'm going to keep the watch on the post-game discussion.